Good afternoon, everyone, and welcome to the Indie Insights session today, the Insights and Innovation session. We have two very special guests, and I can say that I've had the pleasure of working with both in my career, and they're both fantastic powerhouses of energy, fun, and brains. And I'm talking about Naz and Gabby, and they'll introduce themselves formally. But we've got the wonderful duo from Channel Factory joining us today, and they're running through a presentation on the future of responsible media, performance, and purpose at the same time. Very, very interesting subject. And I think probably in the world that we live in now, probably a very, very important conversation. And I can't wait, Naz and Gab, to hear what you have to say. So I'll hand over to you guys to take over.
Awesome. Thanks, Sam.
What an intro.
Yeah, I love that. Good afternoon, everyone. For those we haven't met, I'm Gabby, so I'm the New South Wales Sales Director, and I'm joined by Naz, who has flown in from Queensland to be here today. So yes, very happy to have her here. And we're from Channel Factory, and we're super excited to be here today. So what we wanted to talk about is something that affects all of us, not just as advertisers, but as parents, consumers, and just in general, people that are navigating an online world. So, you know, the digital space has completely transformed how we connect, consume, and advertise, but with that shift comes real responsibility. And we're not just placing ads, we're shaping the internet. So the big question is, what kind of internet are we funding? So today we're going to explore the choices we make as marketers, how we can avoid fueling harmful content and be more brand safe. Also how to align with brand suitable content and environments and protect people that matter the most. So our customers, our communities, and our families as well, because media isn't just about reach. We really believe it is about impact. We are making an impact every day, and it should be the kind of impact that we're really proud to stand behind. So let's get into it. Over to you, Naz.
So there's a lot happening in the world of brand safety on top of the responsibility that we have as conscious media buying, and we will talk through that today and why we need to pay attention to brand safety. And what we work on is brand suitability, which actually encompasses all of that, and we will touch on that. I just wanted to kind of start off with this study that we did a couple of years back. It's a little bit old now. It was done in 2022, but still super, super relevant. We actually surveyed about 6,000 participants across the UK, US, and Australia. In Australia, there was about almost 2,000 participants in this particular study. We actually wanted to understand people's perceptions of brands when they aligned against unsuitable content. So what we actually found was that over a third of Australians actually believe that brands actually are supporting the content that they run against. So we work with the media, we understand how it works, but we actually forget that people don't actually understand, like they actually think that a brand has chosen to align against a particular piece of content. And when brands are actually aligning to content that is not aligned, not suitable, it has a 9% decrease in search intent and a 9% decrease in purchase intent. So it actually has a big impact on behavior. So brands are very much held accountable for where they appear, and it actually has a huge impact. But to kind of take it back, how did brand safety all start and what kind of led us here? So I'm sure you guys are aware of GARM, the Global Alliance of Responsible Media. This was a framework around suitability and safety. GARM was actually created after the horrific events in Christchurch, where 51 people had died in the mosque, and it was actually live streamed on Facebook. So after that horrific incident, there was a lot of growing online hate, hate speech, misinformation, violent content. And so this actually promoted companies, advertisers, tech companies, vendors to actually come together and take action. And it led to the formation of GARM, which is essentially a framework to actually help improve the digital safety of audiences. Now, I'm sure you guys may have seen Elon Musk last year. He's obviously taken over Twitter, which is now X. Elon Musk actually decided to sue GARM last year because he Now, he removed content moderation from X. It's kind of just like a free-for-all type of situation, and decided that GARM was, and all these bunch of advertisers were plotting a boycott against X, and actually decided to sue the business. That unfortunately led to the collapse of GARM. Obviously, a non-for-profit business is not going to be able to take on the dollars of Elon Musk. And so that did lead to the collapse of the framework and the business. And now we're actually seeing Meta has now actually removed content moderation and fact checkers. And Mark Zuckerberg has actually said that he will dramatically reduce censorship across Facebook, Threads, and Instagram. And I'm sure you guys have seen it. I have definitely seen much more violent content, sexual content, more and more on my feed in the last couple of months. And the consequence of this is that we are in a vacuum. But just because this framework doesn't exist, it doesn't mean that we actually should stop doing the right thing. And the future of responsible media is essentially our responsibility, and we need to continue to do the right thing. It all comes down to that. So it's not actually about limiting our freedom of speech or freedom of choice. We are very much about diversity of thought and diverse thinkers. It's actually just about doing what's right for you. So in a post-GARM world, we actually need to take responsibility to look at these things. We're actually contributing to the creation of content, whether it's positive or whether it's negative. So we actually have a choice to do the right thing.
So we're going to touch on 6 key themes today that we think are really important, and each one highlights a different trend that's shaping the future of media planning and buying. So at Channel Factory, this is kind of what we always talk about, which is doing good business while doing good. And it's not just a tagline, it's a mindset, and it's something that we definitely live and breathe at Channel Factory. And so these themes we thought were important to take you guys through because they reflect how we can all make more conscious, impactful choices that not only drive better results, but also just create a healthier digital ecosystem. So the 6 key trends we're going to discuss are the brand safety flaw and why it's flawed, brand adjacency to content, so which is being intentional about where your ads appear and who sees them, inclusion and representation, so making sure that the content we support reflects the diverse world we live in, CO2 emissions and sustainability, so being mindful of the environmental footprint of our digital campaigns, misinformation and fake news, so it's to avoid the trap of funding low quality, misleading content. And that ties nicely into the last theme, which is responsible journalism. And it's why it's important to support credible quality content that keeps our society informed and empowered. So each of these presents an opportunity for all of us, for performance, for purpose, and for the future of our industry and media. So let's start with the brand safety flaw, because as it stands today, it's flawed. So since some of the key safety features have been removed, particularly on platforms like Meta, which Naz has just mentioned before, we've seen a lot of questionable content slipping through the cracks. And in our world of advertising, that's a real issue. So as media buyers, we have a responsibility to hold platforms to account. And, you know, brand safety standards, they're broad, sometimes too broad. So, you know, it's really on us to be intentional about where our budgets are landing, because at the end of the day, we don't just want our ads to be seen. We want to make sure that, you know, we're not funding harmful content along the way. And as a mum, personally, this one hits home for me. So there's content that, you know, shows up on my phone in Discovery that I definitely wouldn't want my 2 young boys seeing. And I'm sure for any parents that are out there, I'm sure you'd be feeling the same. And the biggest issue with the brand safety flaw is that it's optional. So platforms get to decide whether or not they follow the standards, and some simply don't. So if they've got the freedom to choose, then surely you and your clients deserve that same choice when it comes to where your advertising dollars go. And we believe it's time we take a stand, you know, to protect brands and to protect our audience as well. So the system is flawed because it relies on voluntary compliance. So like I mentioned, that platforms get to choose whether or not they follow the safety standards, and that creates big gaps in accountability. Some opt out altogether, which that leads to major inconsistencies across the board. So, without clear enforceable standards, your brand could easily end up next to harmful content, and especially the type that targets younger kids, or younger audiences rather. And the big issue is that the system is reactive. So it only steps in after the damage is done. It's not designed to prevent issues before they happen. And, in this fast-paced digital world, it just doesn't cut it. So it ends up leaving brands exposed, and it makes true brand safety harder to achieve. So we need stricter, more transparent systems that gives us as advertisers control, and protects both the brands and the people they're trying to reach. But the good news is, as an industry, we do have the power to raise the bar on brand safety. So when we're planning campaigns, we can control where our brands show up, but are we asking the right questions? So things like, what are your takedown policies? How long does harmful content stay up before it gets removed? Take that live, Christchurch live stream as the perfect example here, that stayed up online for 3 days before it was taken down. And that's simply not good enough. We should be tracking takedown compliance, holding platforms accountable, and ideally stopping harmful content before it even goes live. And just to put it in perspective, YouTube sees over 500 hours of content uploaded every minute. So even with policies in place, the scale is enormous. And that's where we work at Channel Factory. We help clients navigate that space by adding that extra layer of protection and making sure that your ads appear alongside content that not only aligns with your brand values, but also respects your audience. So the bottom line here is to take back control. It's your brand, your money, and your choice. It's time to reset the brand safety floor on your terms. It's not about antitrust or collusion. It's about reclaiming the freedom to make the right choice for your clients and your brands. You don't have to settle for the minimum standards on these platforms. So step one is to take back control. Be intentional about where your ads appear, demand transparency from your vendors, and make sure that your media choices reflect your values, because at the end of the day, no one should care more about protecting your brands than you. On to brand adjacency. So this one matters more than ever, but somewhere along the way, we've blurred the lines. So we've started confusing unsuitability with suitability. So what's right for an FMCG brand targeting everyday grocery buyers is not the same as what's right for a luxury brand speaking to a premium audience. And that's why understanding these two things is so important. It's about placing your brand in the right context next to content that truly connects with the audience, and away from content that could potentially damage your brand's trust, brand's image. Because when the context is right, the impact is stronger. And here's the thing, not everything that's brand safe is brand suitable. So take this automotive ad as an example. It's showing up next to kids content, probably because the keyword wheels was used. While it's technically brand safe, it's clearly not brand suitable. So the key takeaway here is just because content is safe from a compliance perspective, it doesn't mean it's the right environment for your brand. And wasting impressions in the wrong context doesn't just dilute your message, but it also means missed opportunities to connect with the right audience. So this slide showcases mapping a brand's comfort level of risk versus their need for relevance. So when we work with brands, one of the first things we help them unpack is, what does safe look like for you? And how much does it matter that your ad is contextually aligned to the content it appears next to? Because these two things, risk, what we call unsuitability, and relevance, contextual suitability, aren't always the same, and they don't carry the same weight per brand. So I'll bring this to life with a few examples. So Apple, as you can see, sits up in the top left. High safety, low relevance. They're super strict on brand safety, very strict protocols in place, and they don't want to be near anything that's risky or controversial. But they're really not concerned with contextual relevance. Their ads are polished, they're universal, they're globally consistent. So alignment with surrounding content isn't a major priority for them. You've got Lego, which is a really interesting one, sitting top right. So their target audience is kids. And, we all know that that is a notoriously tricky audience to reach, especially with the strict regulations. So they need to be both highly relevant and extremely safe, you know, requiring very precise targeting for those guys. We've got World of Warcraft, so bottom right, low risk sensitivity, high relevance. They're laser focused on reaching PC gamers. They don't mind being next to profanity, religion, news, or any politics content. They just want to be where the audience is so they can essentially bring more players into the game. And then finally, sports bet, bottom left, very comfortable pushing boundaries. Their whole identity is cheeky, disruptive, a little bit controversial. They care less about brand safety and contextual alignment. They just want to hit that audience and make some noise. So the key takeaway here is every brand is different, and by separating these two levers, risk and relevance, we can open up way more thoughtful strategic conversations. And it's not just about playing it safe, it's about being suitable for your audience and your creative. The more relevant the content your ad appears next to, the more attention it grabs. And, you know, as we all know, attention drives results. So when you drive relevance, you drive performance. And in fact, we've seen ROAS double when content alignment is just right. So by separating these two, risk and relevance, you're not only protecting your brand, but you're also cutting down on media wastage, which means faster, more effective results. Inclusion and representation. So diversity, equity, and inclusion have been hot topics in our industry, but sometimes the conversation fades. And the reality is inclusion and representation matter more than ever as we move towards a more responsible media future. When brands prioritize diversity, they're not just ticking a box, they're reflecting the real world, and that builds trust, relevance, and deeper connections with their audience. So inclusive content isn't about meeting a quota, it's about meeting people where they are. It shows authenticity, aligns with modern values, and strengthens your brand's impact. So instead of seeing inclusion as an add-on, we need to recognize it for what it truly is, a powerful driver of both purpose and performance. And we need to stop seeing inclusion as a nice to have or a political move. It's simply good business. It's not about ticking boxes or chasing trends. It's about genuinely connecting with people. When we say include the excluded, we're not talking tokenism, we're talking smart media choices. The brands that shift their mindset, they see it. Inclusive advertising drives better outcomes. At Channel Factory, we partner with brands who treat inclusion as a strategic priority. We help them align with diverse creators, communities, and conversations, and support positive narratives and show up where it matters. So when brands create space for underrepresented voices, those often marginalized or overblocked, they unlock new audiences, build real connections, and drive stronger performance. So it's not just about responsibility, it's about results as well. And brands that embrace it don't just show up, they stand out, they resonate, and they grow. So let's reframe the conversation. Inclusion isn't just a box to tick, it's a business driver. And Mark Pritchard said it perfectly. So 50% of brand growth at P&G over the last 3 years came from including previously excluded audiences. No new product, no new pricing, no new packaging, just stopping the exclusion of people who should be buying your products. So it seems pretty obvious, right? With that in mind, I'm going to hand over to Naz to walk us through the next theme and why it's critical for the future of your brands.
Yeah, so CO2 emissions and sustainability, this is another topic that has been spoken about within our industry and within most companies in the last few years, probably dropped off a little bit as well. But we know that most companies actually have a key pillar within their business around CO2 emissions and sustainability. And it is definitely getting a lot more traction, but we need to make it real. And when we're talking about it from a campaign media buying perspective, it is really about media wastage. So it's not a cost penalty, it's about actually a campaign performance driver. When you look at 1 million wasted impressions, it's actually the equivalent of driving from Sydney to Perth. So every digital footprint is having an impact on CO2 emissions. So we need to be aware of every impression and where it's being implemented. It's really important that your impressions are in the right environment, in the right audience, ensuring that we're not wasting our impressions across targeting kids channels, kids content, or targeting English campaigns on non-English content or unsuitable alignment. So sustainability and CO2 emissions is really about better performance and creating a better planet, essentially. The next theme around misinformation and fake news, we've seen a lot of this, and there's been a huge, I think COVID actually was a huge catalyst of misinformation. We've seen this a lot with the rise of AI, just basically, you know, it's a huge issue, and we have the responsibility to fund quality channels and content creators, because flooding of bad information actually washes out the truth. So we need to actually work with partners, vendors that are actually vetting channels and content creators and continuing to do that, and not actually monetizing this misinformation. And the problem's actually not with the people uploading content. We don't want to stop people from doing that. It's actually the responsibility of the platforms. We know that usually negative content gets more attention, it gets more clicks in a bad way. So it poses reputational risk as well. Again, the rise of AI, deep fakes, huge issues. So we need to actually collaborate with vendors, industry bodies to advocate for this stricter moderation and ultimately not actually allowing the monetization of this fake content and actually funding the quality content creators that are putting that and allowing them to monetize their content more so that they can continue to do that more and more. And this feeds into actually supporting responsible journalism. We know that fiction is cheap, fake news and fake information is cheaper to produce, and genuine journalism is expensive. So again, we actually have the responsibility to ensure that we're choosing to monetize the right types of content. So those two themes really fit in nicely with each other.
So where does that leave us? It leaves us with a responsibility to make smart, values-driven decisions that fuels both performance and progress. As we've seen today, responsible media isn't just about brand safety and contextual alignment. It's about shaping a future where our media choices drive real impact, both commercially and culturally. When we prioritize things like inclusion, representation, and relevance, we're not just doing the right thing, we're building stronger, more sustainable brands. So we believe the road ahead is about leading with intention. Every campaign should count, not just for the bottom line, but for the people we're trying to reach and the communities we influence every single day. So let's take that responsibility seriously and let's use it as a force for better media, better business, and a better future. So to wrap things up, today we've explored what we believe it means to build a more responsible approach to media. We've started by tackling the flaws in the current brand safety floor and how we can take back control. We've talked about how separating risk from relevance leads to smarter targeting and ultimately better performance. We discussed why inclusion and representation aren't just moral imperatives, they're powerful growth drivers. And we touched on the role we play in addressing misinformation, supporting responsible journalism, and fostering sustainable media practices. Ultimately, this is the future of responsible media, driving performance while supporting people and planet. Thank you very much for your time. Let's keep the momentum going and continue to raise the bar together. Thank you very much.
Well done. Guys, are there any questions from anyone? And if so, put them in the chat feature or yell them out, either or. And sometimes and so often there isn't. So guys, if you could just, is there a QR code that we have that the team could put into the chat feature? Beck, is there one there? If not, we could circulate it after this, put it in the lecture thread and circulate it to everyone. Thank you, everyone. That concludes today. It's a short week for everyone. Just a reminder, NT, there's one more seat there. Cans in cans, if you're coming up there, or the cans crocodiles, if you're coming up there, let us know. We can't wait to greet you at the cocktail party on the Monday. Pitch Cella's opening up for the next generation, so look forward to that one. and as well the major events coming out in the next couple of weeks as well. So we look forward to sharing that information. Channel Factory, thank you for your support and that wonderful presentation. Naz and Gab, two of the best, and great to see you on one screen. Thanks, guys. Have a great day.
Thank you. Bye.
Bye.